Hey guys, Roxy Striar here with AfterBuzz TV, and we are here at CES, the Girls Lounge. I'm with the very iconic Debbie Gibson. So happy to have you here with us.
Thank you.
You did an amazing job on a panel a couple minutes ago, and I learned something new about you, and I have to ask you about it.
What is it?
You walked away from $10 million-ish at some point in your life.
Yeah.
Can you tell me more about that story?
Yeah, so when I was on Atlantic Records at age 16, I did album after album, and really nobody had a hand in picking the music. Like, pretty much I would walk in and go, here's my album, and I'd dump out a paper bag, like a brown paper lunch bag, full of individual demos of the songs that I wanted to go in the album. And they were kind of like, we don't know anything about teenage girl music, so you go, girl. And then when it kind of came to everyone's attention that I was transitioning from teen to adulthood, if you will, everyone decided to start to strategize. And it was like, we need to put you in a black dress and heels. I'm like, why? So I could look like every other singer in black dress and heels? Like, I want to keep being me. That's what's worked so far. And everything just started to feel contrived. And I would leave these meetings where we'd be talking about music to death, like analyzing the songs. I had never analyzed a song in my life. Like, you write the song, it feels great and it works, or it doesn't. It resonates with people or it doesn't. To me, music's not meant to be discussed and analyzed and picked apart like a math example, So, that was, I used to walk out of those meetings and cry. I'd say to my mom, I can try to do one album like this where it's kind of like their way but my way, but their way but my way. And as the purity started to go out of making the music, it just wasn't fun. I got into it for the purity and for the fun and connecting with people. And so, that was the moment I knew that I was like, you know what, I'm going to walk away from, I was like 23. And I knew I was walking away from all this advance money and the guarantee that they'd release all these albums. But I was like, what's the point if it's not the album I want to release?
Was there one specific thing they asked you to do, or it was just the general direction they wanted to take it in that you didn't feel comfortable with?
It really was the general direction musically and visually. And, eventually I did Playboy magazine at 34 years old, but 34 is not 21. So, for male execs to kind of be in a rush for a young girl to grow up is like, no, I don't want to be like a casualty of that. So, yeah, it really wasn't one thing. And it's funny because the last album I made for Atlantic called Body, Mind, Soul, I love that album. I feel very proud of that album. However, the first single was a song called Losing Myself. It was Losing Myself Over You. And it was really about losing who you are in a relationship. What did I know about that at 21? So I could write it and I could sing it, but I wasn't living it. And I think fans know when you're really living an experience you're singing about. And it's funny because I performed that song live and it's somewhere on YouTube, about 3 years ago in Chile. And I remember performing it, and I looked at my boyfriend and I said, I just performed that song for the first time. Because I finally embodied it. And so I do feel like as a musician, there always needs to be a connection at all times between where you are in your life, the music you're making, and then the audience will resonate with it or not, but at least you're being authentic and you're not trying to guess, like, what is the audience buying this month? I'll sell them that. And it becomes kind of like we're dumbing down our audience, which I have respect for the audience. And if they don't like something I do, that's fine. As long as I'm doing it honestly, that's really all that I can do.
So, to young singer-songwriters out there, would you advise them not to write about things that they haven't quite experienced yet, just to get the song out there?
Well, it's interesting. Like, my first album, I was writing things that I hadn't experienced yet, but they were still tangible for my age. Like, the lyrics weren't so complex that it was like, well, who wrote these for her? You know what I mean? Because on that album I was just talking about a minute ago, I co-wrote a lot more than just wrote myself. So there were older males weighing in on the lyrics I was delivering. So that became a different dynamic. Now, as a young girl, I wrote, I could never love again the way I loved you. Now, I had never even loved anyone. However, it came from me based on watching my older sisters go through relationships. So I was kind of taking on a role in a sense, but it still came from something pure. Like, it came from things that were going on in my household growing up, and it was my observations on life. And by the time I sang it, I had experienced that puppy love version of, oh my God, I'll never love anybody else if he doesn't love me. So it still was in keeping with who I was, and it was like age appropriate.
I want to go back for a second because you said you walk in at 16 and you take brown paper bags and dump out your albums and you say, here it is, and nobody really questions you. The industry is constantly changing. What do you think would happen if you were a 16-year-old you today in this industry and you walked in like that? Would they know more what to do with you, or would you still have all of that freedom?
Well, here's the thing. So they didn't know what to do with me. In fact, when I first went to Atlantic, they signed me just to do Only in My Dreams as a dance single. And the dance department guys, I'm going to give them a shout out, Larry Asgar, Bruce Carbone, and Anthony Sanfilippo, had this back office with no windows, with products sprawled out everywhere. I'd go in there, I'd go shopping for 12-inch dance remixes. It was the best. And they were the ones who were like on the phones with those DJs and helping me book club tours. And it was a very grassroots effort. Once that song started to take off, then the execs started to go, oh, we have something here. And again, they felt like, well, because she wrote that first song, she knew something. So, okay, Deb, do it again. Do what you did with that song. They didn't want to mess with that purity. And so I do feel now that artists have so much access to getting their own pure vision heard and seen with the internet. So I do think that the artists do have that power, and they're not as much at the mercy of, okay, big important record label, what are you going to do with me? And the funny thing is I'm not like bashing labels. In fact, I still think labels are very important for certain types of careers. I think that that big machine is invaluable, but I think there needs to be the right creative relationship between the executives and the artists.
So what would you say is the balance then for new artists out there who want to get their stuff heard, but somebody says, okay, if you just sing a song about this, then the next one can be something that you write, or they try to compromise. Where's the line?
That's a really good question. You know, I'm going to cite an example like Katy Perry, for instance, was at it for a long time as a writer and wanting to be an artist. And I don't know who all she was working with on the A&R side, but somebody helped her get to the point where she wrote, I think she might have co-written it, but I Kissed a Girl. And that song was so brilliant, and that was such a brilliant first single, but it still came from her. So somebody in her world had the confidence in her, the faith in her, and kept saying, nope, that's not your first single. But clearly nobody pushed anything on her, and she, I think, had the backbone to not want to accept anything. I do think if you accept something from an outside writer just to get your audience's attention, but then you're going to shift gears on them stylistically, you can get in trouble. So, you know, I do think also there are amazing vocalists. Look, Whitney Houston was never a writer. But you take a Narada Michael Walden song and you pair it with a Whitney Houston vocal and you've got a hit, and that's a beautiful thing. So I think for an artist to know if they're a true writer, if that's what they want to be, maybe if there's limitations to that for them, and maybe they want more of a hit writer, but it should all be I think that those decisions should all lay with the artist, and it should be, when I as the artist put my head down on the pillow at night, was I true to myself with this art? Whether it was delivering somebody else's song but feeling like it was my own, or whether it was something I wrote or co-wrote, but the artist needs to feel it first and foremost.
We're talking a lot about artists, and as somebody who sings and songwrites and produces and all of these things, you wear all of the hats. Do you ever look at people who just sing and all their songs are written for them and all of their work is produced for them and think they're any less of an artist, or how do you feel about that?
I never think that, because I feel like I'm half the vocalist that a lot of my vocal idols are. So I look at amazing vocalists and go, oh my God, what a gift, what a talent. And not everyone's a writer, not everyone's an amazing vocalist. Again, you play to your strengths. So like, it's like I've always felt like I worked very hard on my voice because I wanted to deliver my music, not because I wanted to be a singer, you know. Like, I enjoy singing and I did Broadway, but the same thing, I did Broadway because I loved telling the stories. And there are some singers that just live in this vocal place where it's so, I mean, like, I look at like a Demi Lovato. I always joke that like I could warm up and vocalize and train my entire life and never sing as well as her because she is a born vocalist. So I never ever take anything away from anybody who, you know, I never say like, oh, they're just a songwriter or they're just a vocalist. It's like, I just think whatever gift you have, just maximize it, you know, use it to its fullest potential and put your art out there. And nobody should ever not sing because they don't write. Like, if you sing, you want to sing, you know.
Sometimes it's hard to know ourselves and what our biggest strengths are. And I assume that you have people around you telling you, oh, that's where you're strong, that's a great song, and backing you up. How do you put together a group of people that you really feel like give you the right advice about that?
I think there's a give and take between your team, your manager, whoever your people are in your world, being very honest with you and candid and being, you know, a little bit of a tough love critic when they have to be, but also allowing you the freedom and the creativity to never feel like you're being judged. And ultimately, I think your team has to defer to you. Like, you know, my manager, Heather, will say, look, you know, and my mom, who managed me for 25 years, always said, I creatively defer to you. I am here to advise. I am on your committee. I'm not the one getting out on the stage every night. So there's this respect for the fact that I have to deliver. However, there might be a song I'm personally attached to because of whatever reason that maybe I'm in a little bit of a bubble about. And I need someone from the outside going, Deb, this is a great song. We understand you're in love with it. However, the reality of it is, if you're thinking it's going to be a big hit, we're going to have trouble marketing it because of X, Y, and Z. So, you know, again, and I think there's just a give and take with the business side and the creative side.
Being here at the Girls Lounge, obviously, as a feminist, as I am myself, what advice would you give to young women out there who are trying to be successful in this industry? And are there any stories you could share of things that you've had to overcome as a female singer, songwriter, producer, and all of that?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing, you know, I think the biggest obstacles that I had to overcome were in the beginning, just because, well, no, that's not true. I will say this, there's a word that has plagued me my whole career, and that's perception. So there was a perception of being young and female. There was then a perception of being a teen idol. Then there was a perception of wanting to be on Broadway, but being a pop singer. Then there was a perception of being a Broadway person wanting to go back to my pop roots. And so you kind of have to go la 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 and block it all out and stay on your path and realize that if you stay still and keep doing what you do, the spotlight can eventually find you. If you're like trying to figure out, hey, if I go this direction, I'm going to be popular this month, and if I go spotlight, you and the spotlight are going to keep missing each other, you know, and you're going to be wearing yourself out. So I just think doing what you do and not being result oriented in terms of monetary success. I mean, like when I got into this business, it never dawned on me that I could make a lot of money, ever. That wasn't part of the equation for me. The equation for me was, oh my God, people will know my music. Like they'll feel something from it. That would be amazing. And if I could just make enough money to be able to never have to get another job other than being an entertainer, which I haven't, knock something. You know, that to me was all the reward that I ever wanted. So I think if people are out there, and if you're an artist, or if you're, whatever you do, if somebody, you know, whatever it is your passion is, I think you should always listen to your calling. I think that people get very practical about life out of fear. And I think that obviously, look, there are people, as you get older, you have to pay your bills. But go gig on the weekends. Do open mic nights. Like, never give up your passion. I think that people live with a lot of regret when they abandon their true calling.
I completely agree. Such beautiful words and such beautiful advice from such a beautiful person. Thank you so much, Debbie Gibson, for talking with us at AfterBuzz TV. We're here at CES, the Girls Lounge.